Hi, everyone. I am so excited this morning because I am speaking to author Marcia Butler again. And I am so excited. We're talking about her newest book called Pickle'S Progress. Comes out April 9th. I've been seeing this for like a month or two already. And it was so much fun. I read it yesterday, Marcia. I had so much fun with it. So much fun. What a fun book.
Well, thank you. I aim to please. Yeah, it's a quirky little gnarly novel,
Uh,
and
ah,
twists and turns.
Twists and
All
turns and fun characters, and I love that it's set in New York City because you bring the city to life for people. Like, I know the city sort of, right? I mean, you know it really well, and like just talking about the different places and getting to experience it through your eyes or their eyes is like so much fun. And I want to tell everybody the first sentence to this book because I I was like, really? I couldn't believe this when I read this yesterday. 20 bridges connect the island of Manhattan to the rest of the world. I thought there was five. And now,
they're everywhere.
really,
Yeah.
like, are there 20 of them?
Yes, verified by Wiki, Google. Believe
Wow.
me, I did my fact
Oh,
checking.
I'm sure you
But
did. I'm not, it's just crazy to think about because
I know.
I thought that I've been on them, but obviously not. Like, I haven't been on 20 of them.
Well, probably lifelong New Yorkers who haven't been on more than four or five themselves. I mean, there's five boroughs, and
Yeah,
there's a lot of ways that people were connected. 100 years ago, even before like the big bridges were built.
right.
So, yeah, it's an amazing city, and that's one of the things that I wanted to do was to have the architecture and art and just the buildings and the wonderful things in New York City be sort of backdrop characters to how my characters are moving around, telling their story, behaving with all manner of shenanigans. And the backdrop is the Frick Museum or the Lipstick Building, these sorts of things. So yeah, I wanted to sort of pay homage to my beloved city. I've lived here since 1974.
Oh,
So it's been a
wow.
long time, yeah.
Well, I
Mm.
know you know the city because I'm on your Instagram account, okay? And you take amazing pictures all the time of the city,
Oh,
and I love that. But tell us, okay, so you tell us what you want us to know about Pickle's Progress, and then I'll ask questions because I'm like, I don't want to do giveaways because it does. It has so many, like, I don't even know. Like, as I was reading, I'm like, we can't talk about it that much. I don't want any. I want everybody to experience it like I did. You know?
right. Oh, well, thank you for that, because there are a lot of twists and turns and reveals and kind of
Yes.
where the plot, all of a sudden you say, oh,
What?
this guy's not as nice as I thought he was, And so, okay, I'll tell you the inspiration for the book. One of the inspirations. Years ago, I knew these identical twin women. This was back in the 70s. They were both musicians, identical. Like, you cannot tell them apart,
That's
period.
crazy. Right.
And one of them was got engaged. And she said to me, I'm really worried that Carl is attracted to my sister because we look exactly alike. I'm going to ask him. I said, go
Mm.
ahead and ask him. She asked him, and he said, no, 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 no. Of course not. Of course not. Of course not. And it was fine. P.S. They're still married, happily. But I just didn't believe it. I was very suspicious of that two people could look exactly alike, and yet the attraction is to
It's
one.
one.
Now, of course, we know, personality, of course, plays a big role in these things. But I was very interested in this idea of initial attraction. So my novel is about identical twin men in their 30s, and they live in Manhattan, and they look exactly alike. So add to this that one of the next layer of complication that I added to the novel was is that the mother of these twins favored one over the other in the most outrageous ways. I mean, she was kind of the devil mother, and she preferred one over the other. So the one who was not preferred is my protagonist, Pickle McCardle. He got the short end of the stick with that. And so I'm playing that against actually also the incredible bond of identical twins that we've all heard about and read about. So how did all of these conditions rub against each other? And it's the novel is essentially about love, how people are loved in primary family. How does that inform who they love later? How do they love? What is sibling love like? Where are the boundaries for that?
Right.
And so the story plays out about who Pickle McCardle loves, who he thinks he loves, who he thinks he wants, who he idealizes in love, and who his true love is. So over 5 weeks, this story plays all of that out, and it is a wild ride, I hope.
Oh, it is. I got to the end and I was like, Marcia, what? But I loved it. I'm not telling anybody. Don't even bother going ahead because you won't even get it. It's just like, because you have to know these people. And, and we do. You did such a great job with the characters. Like, I felt like I knew them. And you know what? I dated an identical twin in high school. And he said to me, I know, isn't this crazy? That's why I love the book too, I think.
I love this. I love this story. Go.
Yeah. So he said to me, you can't tell the difference between me and my brother. And I said, no, I can. And he said, no, you can't. So we go to a dance and it was the other one and I couldn't. And he broke up with me. It was a sad.
Because of that?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep.
Well, had you dated him for a while? It was
early in high school. Please. But it was crazy because I did think that I knew them apart. I thought they had different quirks. I thought I could tell, but when I was reading this, I was thinking, like, what is, like, personality comes into play, I guess, but really difficult. I mean,
because the attraction is the initial attraction. We know, when people are attracted to each other, it's either a yes or a no.
Right.
It has to be there.
Right.
That ephemeral kind of like, wow, without even knowing who the person is. And in this, Pickle and his brother Stan are also happen to be incredibly handsome. They're like George Clooney, just like devastatingly, across a crowded room. You love the look of this guy, And the other weird thing that happened when I started writing this book, I have to tell you this other strange sort of woo circumstance. The book starts off with a man jumping to his death on the George Washington Bridge. Right. Okay. And that man, of course, dies. He's never in the book again. But he leaves his girlfriend on the bridge. And that sort of propels the action. But I just thought, like, well, what is this guy's name going to be who goes over the bridge and dies in the Hudson River? And I thought, Jacob, let's call him Jacob. Right. So early on, I had already decided that I was going to write about identical twins whose mother favored the other. Right. And now, hear me, this is the craziest thing. I Googled the name Jacob, and the story that came up was the biblical story of Jacob and Esau, where the mother, Rachel, prefers she's got the two babies in the womb, and she's trying to get one of them forward to be birthed first, so he'll get the birthright. And I had already thought of identical twins and a mother who favored the other. It was just so crazy. And I thought, okay, let's go.
I didn't even think of that story, but you're right. Like that whole story about, the deception and everything that went along in that story, but that is crazy. And, this story is like Junie.
Yes. She's the woman who's left behind from her boyfriend who committed suicide. They were supposed to go off together. But
I know, like, how crazy is that? I love that you had that as a story, because I was like, you never hear of that. It's like, oh, we're supposed to go off together. Oops, he went.
And you're left, and it's like, wait a minute, I was supposed to be in the Hudson River too. Yeah, so it's kind of, the story has a lot of comedy in it, but ultimately it's very dark. Yeah. Because it's dealing with, obviously this woman is left, and she's dealing with those types of issues. I mean, just suicide pact and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And she lands in these people's lives, and they take her in, and she kind of becomes the pawn for how they're playing out their crazy family dynamic. And unwittingly, she's the pawn. She doesn't really understand it fully. She's participating, but she's kind of naive and gullible in a way. And but Pickle particularly is playing it for all it's worth,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And I know when we talked before about your memoir, The Skin Above My Knee, which I love so much. Everybody
Thank
go get it.
you.
I'm gonna put that below. You
Oh,
gotta go read that book. One of my favorite memoirs. And
thank
we were talking about you writing fiction. So what did you think? Like, did you love writing fiction as opposed to the memoir?
Yes. Okay, so here's what. When my memoir got sold, there's an editing process, of
Yes.
course, but I pretty much immediately started writing fiction
Oh, really?
because I really had the bug for writing, and I didn't, I just, I didn't feel in my bones that I was a one-note samba kind of person.
Yeah.
I really thought I have more in me. But the overwhelming, feeling of writing fiction is freedom for me. Because
Right.
with a memoir, of course, you know the story. You still have to create a narrative arc and make it work,
Right.
in terms of structure, so that people have a good read and it sort of reads like a novel. But it is your life, and you have to tack to truths, and you have to, select scenes that work the best to give the reader the full view of what your life is, essentially. But with fiction, it's just so freeing because you can imagine your characters doing anything and everything. Ultimately, it kind of has to work
Right.
for the novel. You can't just have them go willy nilly here and there. But it was just very freeing to be able to let it go, let my mind go, and not be tethered to a truth, a
Yeah.
truth of my life. So I could have my characters do anything. It had to be justified in terms
Right.
of the story, but they do some very weird things. That's for sure.
Well, I would think, I mean, your memoir was so, like, you had to get so honest. And so, like, I can imagine that the draining, if I were to go back and start, there's a draining. It's emotional. I'm sure at the end of writing some of those chapters, you were like, oh, okay. You almost get tired of your own story sometimes,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, yeah. It was the emotional toll that writing the memoir took went on after it was published,
I
of
can
course.
imagine. Yeah.
In ways that I had never imagined,
Right.
because I had never disclosed much of what I wrote in the memoir,
Yeah.
as I think I had told you a couple of years ago. And here it is out in the world. And people then, of course, think that they know you
Right.
because of the memoir.
Right.
And they really don't. It's a kind of it's a very polished, plucking of um, incidences in my life that I've tethered together,
Yes.
all true, but there's a lot that people don't know also.
Right.
And it's not all bad, but so I really felt very much that I wanted to just turn over
Mm-hmm.
and be done with navel gazing. Be done. And like a new chapter, excuse the metaphor,
No,
is
I love that.
now with me. And I've actually the I have almost finished the first draft of my next novel.
Oh, that's so awesome. I
So
know so many
yeah.
people that'll write memoir after memoir, just like different aspects. And, so I was really happy that you chose fiction because I'm sure you could have gone on to write more memoirs and brought up different things. Like you said, I feel like you're the woman with 9 lives. Like
Ah,
you're an oboist, you're a designer, you are a fiction writer now, and then you're doing this project that you're writing for too. And are you also like directing or producing any of it?
yes.
The
So you're
creative.
talking about this documentary film called The Creative Imperative,
Can't
which is
wait.
yeah. So I'm not writing this. Okay, so I'll just describe it. It's going to be released in New York at the New York Society Library on June 9th. And I've had this idea for a very, very long time about exploring um, the writer's life. Not the writer's life, the artist's life.
Artist,
So
yeah.
I interview musicians, actors, dancers, writers, and fine artists. And I ask them 3 questions, all the same questions. And I will not reveal that
I was
here.
like, you do? I want to know.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's on my website. So if anybody wants to look at it, they can
I
look on
was
the
going to
creative
say, I
imperative
thought I
and
saw
read
something.
all about the
Yes.
genesis of the film. But at the end of the day, through these questions, the writers tell really fundamentally, in a very deep and intimate way, what it's like to be an artist in the world, and what it feels like to do their art, whatever it is, and what it means for the world. And through this, they also tell incredible stories
Okay.
about the first time they saw this, or what this meant to them, or like, for instance, the morality of being an artist in the world, and the discipline and the responsibility that is required when you take on this task that you feel you have no control over. You must do it. Many people are creative.
Right.
I think everyone is creative in
Yeah.
a certain way,
Right.
right? Many people pursue an art, a life in the arts, and then put it down. There are very few people who will pursue it forever, and are not daunted by not being able to make a living by it.
Hmm.
Or many of the people in my film do make a living by their art, but some don't. But it doesn't matter. It's the daily, daily, daily pressing of looking at the page every day, going to the dance floor every day, being in a Broadway show, many Broadway shows. We have a lot of Broadway show actors. And just that pressing inside that even they have trouble understanding, why am I still doing this? Why must I do this?
Right.
That's the creative imperative. And very few people are pushed by that. And I wanted to explore that. Like, why are certain people doing it their entire lives? Like, for instance, we can think of many fine artists that didn't find recognition until they were in their 60s or 70s.
Right.
Yet they were doing it from a very young age. And nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah. So I read all the time, every day, right? I mean, all the time, but I crochet. Okay. And for
Yes.
me, crocheting brings, I don't even know what. And that's why I'm so interested to see this, because it's about the colors, it's about the art, it's about putting the project together. And,
Right.
I just kept thinking about that because when I've also read another book about creativity and how we need it, like as humans, like we need that outlet of our brain. And I was like, I look forward to it. At the end of the day, I pull out my yarn. I'm always making something for somebody,
Right.
and I have gotten paid for some things, but that's not about getting paid. It's about putting, like granddaughters, and I'm always handing stuff out, but it's about putting it together and looking. I don't, but it's calming. I know that it calms me after a whole
Yeah.
day, just doing it. But anyway, so that's what I kept thinking. It's like, we all have something that, and a writer can't think of going a day without writing. And like you said,
It's true.
dancers
And,
can't think.
this is the thing about creativity and what you're talking about of doing something crochet. It involves math. It
Yes.
involves color. It
Yep.
involves, pieces to the whole.
Yep.
And the arts are the way that human beings understand each other fundamentally without language, without this chatter. It's the arts are a higher form of communication that basically levels everyone. It doesn't matter what your political views are, what your religious
Right.
beliefs are, what your culture is. If you're all sitting in a concert hall listening to something like music, which
Right.
is a profound expression of from inside, all the hate goes away, all the misunderstanding goes away, and at one point we're united in experiencing this together. And this is what holds the world up. I truly believe
Yeah.
this is this moral contract between the artist, the thing that they're making, and the person that receives it.
Yes.
This is a transaction which saves us every day. And this is what I'm exploring in my film.
Absolutely. And as a musician, when people go to see, a symphony or orchestra or whatever, I mean, you're not thinking about work. You're not thinking like the music, you're so, that's what I always think about. Like when I'm doing whatever, when I'm crocheting, when you're doing whatever, like all of a sudden you're not thinking about you're not thinking about the kids. You're not thinking about, worries that you're having.
Yes,
And for
yes.
those 2 hours that you're at a concert or at a Broadway play, can you ever think about anything but when I'm at plays or anything like that, like you're not thinking and you're just watching. And a movie, in a movie theater.
You're truly,
right.
When you are engaged in receiving art forms, you are not, the critical mind goes off and you're simply, if you can, experiencing it. Now, of course, do we get bored? Does our mind wander? Of course, throughout say a 2-hour play or a piece, which is 20 minutes or something, or going into a museum, there are other things around. But when we can all pause in a moment where we're experiencing something together, and it doesn't even have to be at the same time, like in a museum, these are moments where people are at their best, I think, in terms of receiving this. And, so the people that I'm interviewing are just, it's just, I have 11 hours of footage, which I compressed into less than 1 hour. And that was very sad to have to do. But it's profound. Yeah. And my idea is just sit down, be quiet, listen, and observe, and just take it in. Yeah. And people will take from it what they will, and it'll all be different. I'm not sort of trying to shoehorn a narrative into it. It's simply people testifying essentially.
Yeah. And I've heard even as we get older, like for depression and anxiety, like that is like one of the number one things they're saying now is like go find something you're passionate about and do it. And because and that's what it reminds me of, because people have talked about, like, they take up paint. George W. took up painting when he left the White House.
I know. God bless him.
God bless him. But like seriously, like you go from president, now he's like painting paintings, in his 60s and 70s. And he's like, because you can just do it. I was like inspired by that because I'm like, you can just do it, right? You don't have to.
You can do it, and you don't have to be the best. You don't even have, you may be the worst. You may be the second from the worst. Who knows? It doesn't really matter. It's what it is the intention of doing it. Like, I am going to sit down and put paintbrush to palette to the canvas, and it's an intention of communication, really. And
who else did it? Churchill painted.
Pardon me?
Churchill painted.
I know.
During the war, he would go out to his easel during the war.
He was actually quite good. His stuff sells fairly well. Of course, he's a famous person, but I've seen his artwork, and it's impressive.
Yeah. So I love that.
Anyway, so thank you for mentioning that.
No, I just love the whole concept, and I feel like I've witnessed it because I'm on your social media and I've gotten to see the pictures along the way that you've taken, and I love that I can do that. I mean, that's the great part about social media is when you feel a part of it,
Yes.
that it's, like, because you take such amazing pictures. And
you're so sweet. Thank you.
I love it. I love all your New York City pictures. And that's why this book was so much fun, because I felt like I was in, and I love New York City. So I have to take a bus to get there. Most of the time I take a bus, and I swear it's less than 2 hours, and you get off that bus and you're like, you're in another world. You are transported to another world in Manhattan.
Yeah.
You're like,
wow,
this is just, you walk around like, it's crazy. I love it. So I don't have the book to hold up for everybody, but that's okay. You can see the picture of it, and you see, is that the GW? I'm assuming it's the GW.
Yes.
Okay. Because I only saw a little picture, and I'm like, is that the G? It has to be, right?
The George Washington Bridge is on the cover, and it's pointing from New Jersey to the bridge apartments where Pickle lives.
Where he lives. Oh, which is awesome. And I love that his name is Pickle.
I know. Pickle McCardle. It just came to me. I love the way it floats off the tongue.
It does. So. It really does. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. I'm going to put all of Marcia's links listed below. I'm also going to put the IndieBound link because everybody is loving IndieBound because they can go to their local bookstores. I've been looking there now. Like if I don't need it tomorrow,
Exactly.
Go to your local
Exactly. Love it.
bookstores, support your local bookstores and go get the book. And we'll look forward to the movie. And I can't wait for your next book.
Well, thank you. It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it really was. So it comes out April 9th. Did I say 9th? 9th.
9th. Yep.
April 9th. So we can't wait. And I'll be seeing you everywhere. So have a great day, Marcia.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.